To manage substitutes in MyFlexLearning, you have one of two options. And this is going to depend on whether you allow your substitutes to log into MyFlexLearning or whether they will not have access even with a generic account and you want to print them off a class list. So let's start with the simplest option for substitutes, which is printing a class list. So in this case, a substitute is going to take attendance on paper. They're not going to log into MyFlex, and someone else will enter this attendance, maybe the teacher, after they've returned. If I click on class list here, as an admin, I can run this for any teacher that I want. So if I just search for a teacher name, I can find them, and then I can choose which day I want to run that class list for. I can run that as a PDF or a CSV. Probably want to do this as a PDF. And when you run this, this will simply give you a list of that class, and you can view that. Now, teachers can also run this themselves. So if I log in as Elizabeth Bailey, and if I'm a teacher and I know I'm going to be out, right here on reports, you could train the teachers to run their class list for the particular day and then leave it for the substitute. Now, your second option for managing substitutes in MyFlexLearning is to allow the substitutes to log in. And there's two ways you can do this. If your substitute, for instance, maybe you have a building substitute, has an account in your district and thus would have an account in MyFlexLearning, so they're being brought over from your student information system, maybe as a building sub or something like that, you should already find them in your list, so you can find and search for them here. If that's the case for you and they already have an account, there's nothing you really need to do, and you can skip forward to the part where we assign the substitute for the day. But if you have a list of substitutes and you need a generic substitute account, what we suggest is simply creating a generic substitute account. So here, for instance, you'll see I created one called Sub1. You can really call this whatever you want. The ID really doesn't matter, as this won't be an account that is linked to your student information system anyway. You need to put in an email address. Now, this does not need to be a real email address. I, for instance, just created a fake email address of sub@myflexhighschool.edu. The important thing about the email address is this will be the email address they will log in with. So they will enter this email address and then whatever password you give them when they are logging into MyFlex. We'll see that in a second. Give them the role of teacher, and that's really all you need to do. Now, after you've created that account, you do need to reset the password to give them a password. So set reset password, type in whatever you want that password to be. Oops. And now you have that sub account. For those users to log in, they are simply going to come to your MyFlexLearning login, and rather than clicking on login with Google or Clever or ClassLink, they're going to click on sign in with email and then type in their email address and the password you gave them to then log into the system. Now that you've got your sub accounts created, whether that is a long-term sub or a single day sub, you can now assign those to be the substitute for the teacher. Now, if it is a long-term sub, and you're going to have to decide, what you consider a long-term sub, but what we recommend is going into the class, if it's going to be a long-term maternity leave, something like that, and placing the substitute on the class at the class details level. Because what this will do is this will allow this substitute to sub for every day for this class until you remove them. So once the long-term substitution is over, you can take that person off of there, and now they won't have access to that class anymore. For a single day or a couple days, what you can do is attach the sub just to that day. So let's say Elizabeth Bailey is going to be out today. So I can come in here as an admin, search for her on her calendar, and simply on that day, put in the sub, okay? And I actually already did this, but just so you can see, we can come in, put in sub 1, and save that. Now, once that is saved, let's look at what the sub sees when they are logged in to take attendance. So now I'm going to log in as the substitute. Now, one thing to point out, with your generic sub account that you created, remember, the users aren't going to click on Google or Clever or ClassLink to sign in with it. They're going to enter their email address and their password in these fields here, and then simply click sign on. If they are going to use the mobile app, would be the same way. When they're signed in, you'll see that the teacher, the substitute, can see that for today they've been assigned to Win 2 with Elizabeth Bailey. If they look at their calendar, they will see that class on that day and that day only. If they go forward to like next week, there's nothing in there. Even if there was something in there, they wouldn't be able to take attendance or anything for that. When they click into the class, they have the ability, just like the teacher does, to come in and take attendance. This is the updated roster for this day. Just like everything else, they do not need to hit save or anything like that, and then they are done. Now, because you attach it with those just to one day, you do not need to go in and clean those up or delete those or anything like that.